We are taught to see Mars as a tomb, a silent red desert ravaged by radiation and choked by dust. For generations, we have dreamed of one day conquering it, of planting our flag in its frozen soil. But what if we are not conquerors? What if we are merely returning to the scene of a forgotten crime? A deeper look into the planet's scars, into the chasms of its ancient canyons, beneath the shorelines of its vanished oceans, and within the radar anomalies of its subterranean tunnels, paints a terrifyingly different picture. A picture in which Mars was not just habitable, but was once home to the first high civilization of our solar system. A civilization that did not die there, it came here. Geological data tells a violent story. Sometime between 500 and 1 billion years ago, Mars died. And it died quickly. Its protective magnetic field, the invisible shield that held its oceans and atmosphere in place, collapsed. Exposed to the solar wind, its thick, warm atmosphere was violently stripped away into the vacuum of space. The cause is debated. A cataclysmic asteroid impact that shattered the planet's core, a chain reaction of supervolcanoes that poisoned the air, a slow, inevitable decay. But across the world, in the oldest human myths, there is a strangely persistent and specific memory, a story that predates our own history, the story of gods who descended from a dying red star. The Martian civilization, facing a planetary extinction event, would not have perished overnight. A species capable of high technology would have seen the signs. They would have watched their oceans evaporate and their skies thin, and they would have retreated, just as we plan to do today. They would have moved underground. Radar scans from our orbiters have revealed what appear to be colossal empty lava tubes and geometric cavities, some of them 100 feet in diameter, perfect radiation-proof shelters for a terrified population. For millennia, they may have survived there, a shadow civilization in a dying world, watching the stars through a sky that grew ever darker. But this was only a temporary reprieve. As the planet's surface became utterly uninhabitable, as the global dust storms blotted out the sun for centuries at a time, they knew they had to make a choice: die with their world or attempt the impossible. A great migration across the blackness of space. And their destination was the only other cradle of life they knew, a primitive, beautiful, but hostile blue world, teeming with a savage, nascent potential: Earth. Look again at the oldest stories of humanity, not as myths, but as historical records. The Sumerian tablets, the Egyptian papyri, the legends of the Maya and the Dogon, they all tell the same impossible story. They speak of teachers, saviors, or gods who came from the heavens. Beings who possessed a divine, inexplicable knowledge of astronomy, geology, and global navigation, who could build with cyclopean stone blocks, manipulating them as if they were weightless, who taught primitive hunter-gatherer humans the secrets of agriculture, mathematics, and civilization. They came from the sky, but were made of flesh and blood. And in so many of these legends, there is a bizarre, specific detail. They are associated with the color red. The red gods of the Americas, who promised to return. The Egyptians, who painted their gods with reddish skin and whose sacred homeland was the red land of the desert. Is it a coincidence? Or is it the fragmented, deeply rooted memory of the survivors of the red planet integrating themselves with the primitive species of their new home? Look at the architecture they inspired. Compare the enigmatic, geometric platforms and pyramids found on Mars's Cydonia region to the foundations of Giza, Sacsayhuaman, or Nan Madol. They are built on the same principles of impossible scale and mathematical precision. The tool marks on the hardest granite and diorite in both worlds seem to be identical, as if made by the same lost sonic technology. The vast subterranean cities of Derenquio in Turkey or the tunnels of Gobustan seem to be deliberate recreations of the Martian lava tube shelters. It is not just similar, it is a shared architectural DNA, a homesick, traumatized echo of a world that was lost. Perhaps the most haunting and controversial clue lies not in stone, but in our own blood. The human genome is a map of our history, and on that map, there is a ghost. Modern science has identified at least 223 genes in human DNA that have no precedent, no evolutionary ancestors in any other species on Earth. Our own intelligence, our capacity for abstract thought, our self-awareness appeared in a sudden explosive leap in the last 100,000 years, a mere blink of an eye in evolutionary time. Science calls this an anomaly, a lucky mutation, but the myths explain it with chilling clarity. The gods mixed their fire with the clay of the earthborn. It was not evolution, it was an upgrade, a deliberate act of genetic engineering by a dying race, desperate to preserve its own consciousness by weaving it into the very fabric of a new, more resilient species. We are their living legacy. But they did not simply vanish into our gene pool. The ancient texts are clear that after their great work of creation and instruction was done, the Red Teachers retreated from the chaotic world of early humanity. They went into the mountains. They returned to their homes beneath the earth, to places where the planet's breath is warm. This is a stunningly accurate description of a species adapted to a cold, thin atmosphere, seeking out the geothermal warmth of deep caves and underground systems, exactly as they would have done in their final desperate centuries on Mars. They did not disappear, they simply went home, to the kind of sheltered, underground environment they understood best. This leads us to the most dangerous and profound part of this theory. The Martian exodus may not have been a complete evacuation. The resources for such a feat would have been astronomical. It may have been a desperate, targeted expedition, a single ark, not of bodies, but of minds. The ones who came here were not random refugees. They were the scientists, the engineers, the philosophers, the cultural elite, the keepers of the knowledge of a dead world, tasked with planting the seed of their civilization in new soil. They were a memory bank, a final, desperate gamble to ensure that the consciousness of Mars would not be extinguished forever. And now, after millennia of slow, painful, war-torn growth, their great project, humanity, is finally coming to age. We are turning our eyes back to the stars, back to the one place in the cosmos that calls to us with an inexplicable primal pull. We are returning to Mars. What we call exploration, what we see as a bold new future for our species, may not be anything short of the same. It may be the final, unconscious act of a species with amnesia, a species not conquering a new world, but simply going home.